No, it wasn't that long ago that I did my previous video. It's almost midnight here. Not quite yet. It's getting there. Another 20 minutes, it'll be midnight. And by the time this gets posted and up, it will be past midnight. The title for today is I Look Good. And the rest of the story is. And it's a follow-up, obviously, to my previous video in which people commented how good I look. Anyway, here's the blurb. People commented on my last video about how good I look. I know I just said that. You should see my feet, my ankles. In fact, my entire lower legs are swollen. Only my slippers and flip-flops fit. Half of each foot to the toes are perpetually numb. They were supposed to do a procedure that would allow blood flow back up to my heart. It hasn't even been scheduled yet. They don't even talk about it anymore. They tell me my heart is working at less than 20% efficiency. The swelling seems to increase, and the support hose don't help at all. Plus, my memory still has gaps, especially when I am stressed. I am plagued by shortness of breath, too. Plus, there are many additional expenses that either I or my family have to pay that were not covered. I need miracles to be fully restored. Now, let me add right off the bat that 100% is not the normal efficiency of a heart. 50 to 60% is normal. A heart never operates at what they consider 100% efficiency. I don't get that, but that's what I'm told. And so 15 to 20% efficiency where my heart is said to be operating is, less than half of what the norm is, even though it seems much lower than that by the number. And if you didn't know, you would think that, boy, his heart's hardly working at all. But a normal heart, again, is only 50 to 60%. Anyway, yes, in my last video, people were commenting how good I look. But you don't see parts of me that I have to deal with every day. And in addition to dealing with the medications that make my mouth dry, that don't allow me to sleep for more than 2 hours at a time, anytime during the day, because I have to keep getting up to urinate or defecate. I mean, it's a continual vicious cycle that they have me on with these medications and the so-called treatment. I absolutely despise the pharmaceutical drugs that my son wants me to keep taking, and of course the doctors and nurses also push them. And I remember back on my first heart surgery where, I know I've mentioned this before, where I was engaged, not married, engaged to a cardiac nurse with over 20 years experience as a registered nurse in that department. And even she did not emphasize that I needed to stay on the prescription drugs. She encouraged me to do the non-prescription, not generic, but just the over-the-counter vitamins and minerals and CoQ10 and other things, plus lots and lots of exercise. She and I actually were able to walk 4 or 5 times a week, and we were walking sometimes more than 2 miles. So she was exercising with me during that whole procedure and helping me to gain my strength back, which I did, despite the fact that my heart was never drained. The chest cavity was never drained after the first operation. And still, despite that, I lasted over 12 years before the second heart failure, which is longer than a lot of people lasted. Nevertheless, this operation technically, it was more successful than the previous operation. Yet, the after effects are much worse than they were the first time around. Again, you don't see, by looking at me, you don't see what's going on in the rest of my body. I didn't mention in the blurb that my arms are anemic. I mean, up here, okay? Let me lean the other way. I mean, it doesn't look bad this way, but you can see this flab just hanging here, just flab. My muscles have no tone, especially this muscle has no tone in it. When I can hold it a certain way and it's all wrinkled. There's no strength in my upper body, in my arms I'm talking about. And again, my legs are extremely swollen and sometimes painful. And also, whenever I am stressed, I tend to forget things more. Like if I'm in court or something, or talking to people about the legal issues, I tend to be more stressed and I forget words, and my conversation doesn't flow as easily as it would when I'm not stressed, like when I'm making these videos. I'm not stressed doing this. This is something I've been doing for a long time. It's a piece of cake for me. It's something that I'm used to, and I have a certain dynamic that I introduce when I make my videos. So you don't see all the things that are going on in my body and all the things that are going on in my spirit as well, as I try not to, but yet I do greatly resent and resist pharmaceutical drugs. I do not trust pharmaceutical drugs to be pure. They have side effects. Now my son always tells me, but Dad, everything has side effects. Of course the generic stuff does. But when I was taking the generic drugs after the first operation, number one, I had a lady sleeping with me, but number two, I didn't have all the side effects because I only stayed on the medications for 2 months and then weaned myself off. So I was able to get a good night's sleep. Sleep is essential to the healing process. And on the current regimen of pharmaceutical drugs with all of their side effects, I have to get up every couple hours. I can't sleep more than 2 hours at any time, and that simply is inadequate for proper healing. So I do not, and I will not ever properly heal as long as I'm taking the pharmaceutical drugs. The only hope and chance I have is to get off of the damn medications with their built-in purposeful side effects. I'm not talking about if you take too much vitamin something, you're going to have a side effect. I'm talking about prescription drugs that have side effects built into them. So I want to reiterate that even if I look good, there's a whole lot of situation going on with me that still needs prayer. I still need miracles. I still need people who will stand with me and support me and in what I'm trying to do, and especially my son, especially my family, needs to recognize that as long as I stay on the prescribed medications and everything else, I will never heal. I will never get better because sleep is required in the healing process, and you can't do that ever in the hospital or on these regimens of drugs that they put you on. You can never get proper rest. Now, for me, proper rest would be 4 to 5 hours in a row. That would be considered normal. If I could get 6 or 7, that would be a miracle, because even before I knew that there was anything wrong, I was only getting 4 to 5 hours sleep at a time. So I want to ask all of you to bear in mind the situation that I'm actually in and pray for those miracles. Help me create those miracles that will enable me to restore my body. My soul obviously is okay, except when I'm really stressed, as I said. When I'm really stressed, I am more forgetful than when everything is going smoothly. And it's a challenge for me. It's definitely a challenge. But the biggest challenges right now are physical and financial. I did mention that in the blurb, that many of the prescriptions that we have to get and many of the procedures that we have to do They're not covered by the insurance because all I have is Part A, where they're working on Medicaid, but it hasn't happened yet. So I have a whole lot of bills that are unpaid. Just uh, just the hospital up at Shands in Gainesville I have a bill for them for almost $20,000. Now I'm sure that somehow some of that's going to be covered because on less than $1,000 a month income, I'm certainly not going to be able to pay it, and my income has dwindled way down to what I have as a reserve, not only because of all of these medical expenses that I have, but because my family has been living with me for a year and a half for free and expect to live another school year here also for free. And I just simply cannot keep supporting my own family with the additional expenses that I have. So something has to give, something has to be done. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I ask for your prayers. I ask for if you have gifts of the Spirit, however you manifest them. I need something that is substantial to turn things around and bring my life back into somewhat of a balance. And yes, I am going to have to cut back on some of the extracurricular stuff that I've done, some of the contacts. And I can't sit on calls and listen to conference calls for hours and hours like I was with the Red Dragon. I mean, it just can't happen. I do not have the time for that, and a lot of other things have to be rearranged in my schedule. But most importantly, if I'm going to heal, I have to be able to sleep. And if I'm going to be able to sleep, I cannot do it on the medications as they currently exist. So I ask for your prayers, and I welcome your comments. Thank you for listening to this video, and may God bless you.